Boudica Prime is ridiculously strong. In this video, I'm going to recap the testing we did yesterday on stream where even El Cid without the relic when paired with Boudica Prime was beating Guan and Skippy. Heck, we even put in Banana Helmet, Edward of Woodstock with Boudica, and she still was beating Guan with Skippy. So stick around in this video for a rundown of all of the reports and conclusions and the Boudica mechanics that are important to understand. And before I begin, let me tell you about a game that has archers, but there aren't actually any commanders. These are the archers in War and Order, a city-building war game where the units themselves actually have the perks. There are no commanders that give special benefits or do certain things. However, the different tiers of archers have different skills. So, for example, this particular tier of archer has bonus damage against mages, and you can even customize your units in a special research center called the College to perform in different ways. I am enjoying my time in War and Order. We've got a group here, the Smash Squad, in Realm 1492, and if you use the link down below in the description to download the game, that will support the channel 100% free to play, and you can check it out and see if you like it. And if you want, you can join one of our Academy alliances. Again, the realm number is 1492, where we have the top ranked alliance by power, as well as the number 4 ranked alliance by power, and some academies. So join us in Realm 1492. Use the link in the description and check out a game that has no commanders, but some of those same units you're familiar with: archers, cavalry, infantry. Oh, and this game also has angels, but that's maybe a topic for a separate video. Kind of a cool feature: when your hospital overflows, some of your troops actually come back and can fight for you. Boudica Prime is honestly better than I thought she would be, and this is in part because of the way that her mechanics actually work. The way that her expertise skill works is so important. This is the reason why she is super overpowered. And sure, even if you go 5511, you could use her, or max the first 3 skills, you could use her, but the expertise skill is absolutely critical in unlocking more punch and more power on this commander. Now, she makes it so that when you're under control effects, the troop has an 80% chance to dispel them, and those effects never even apply in the first place, okay? So the second you would get silenced from, like, Guan Yu, for example, the game does a check to see, is this going to stick or not? And there's an 80% chance that it just doesn't stick. And you can see that, by the way, at the battle logs, and I covered that in the live stream, so I won't go in detail here. But what I'll say is that that is a very powerful way for that debuff clearing to work. I mean, before the effect has even lasted a single turn. I would word this even as the troop has an 80% chance to prevent them from applying. And that might be a little bit more clear, that they never even land on you at all. Now, you may be thinking, okay, why are you talking about this so much? Well, there are really important silence effects where the synergy with Boudica is actually extremely excellent. And one of them is obviously encountering the Guan Yu silence, which is extremely powerful. You knew that. You knew that Guan Yu is one of the stronger commanders in the game, but also Scipio, when Guan is silencing someone, starts to gain more rage because the target is silenced. Well, now he's not gaining any more rage extra from his expertise skill either. So this really is a hard counter to Guan Yu and Skippy, and it's so powerful that you honestly could pair them with almost any archer commander in the game and do well and win a lot of your duels, not to mention that it'll be a good open field march too. Now, to arrive at these conclusions, let me tell you a little bit about what we did. I'll put the gear up on the screen. Big shout out to Raven, who expertised his Boudica Prime so that we could run these tests and that he could do some rallies with her. In fact, maybe I'll flash a few pictures up on the screen of some truly outrageous troll rallies that we ran where, like, look, the garrison was getting swarmed. So you can't look at these reports without context and actually get anything of value by looking at them. But all that to say, Boudica Prime's really powerful. Now, here is the gear that I was running on my Guan Yu. And what I want to say here is, you may wonder, well, why are you running a full gear test? I think that a full gear test gives a better window into how commanders actually perform. The downside, of course, is trying to find roughly equivalent gear so that you can say, like, yeah, if you were both in the same stuff, which one would perform better? Well, my gear is not perfect for doing that because not only did I run a Guan primary with this gear, and by the way, I mean, I have 2 more crits than the person that I'm battling against, Raven, right? Like, they do not have the crit accessories I do. And also, I'm using the KVK stuff here that's crit. But there's more. He also is using the Egyptian civilization. So he has the Archer special unit and 5% extra Archer attack. Now, I'm Viking. So when I'm running my infantry, we have the same number of iconics. The gear's about the same. We both have a special unit. But when I do this testing and I use XY, which you'll see that I do, and you'll be surprised to see that XY was losing. Even though I have sort of equivalent gear, but no iconics, I'm missing a civilization bonus, including any extra stats that civilization may give, and the special unit. So it's a close approximation for how these would perform, but keep in mind that all of those things together could actually swing the trade in favor of these combos. The takeaway for me, however, is that Boudica Prime is still just ridiculously strong. And by the way, if you want to see what's on my archers when we do a couple archer tests, full crit set, I'm using Ring of Doom and then Pendant of Eternal Night. Horn is a better accessory, I think, by far, but you're going to see that this is so one-sided, it's not going to be the difference maker either way. So, by the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, do me a huge favor and consider throwing a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. It supports the channel 100% free to play and really does mean a lot. Thank you for your support. Let's go now and actually look at some of these reports. And they were, in my eyes, somewhat shocking. So first up, Guan and Leo. And there's been a lot of Leo haters recently. And that hate is undue entirely. Leo with Guan is an absolutely astonishingly powerful combination in the open field. So to take a duel out of context and say, oh, the Leo is dead, would be a catastrophic, wrong conclusion to draw from this test result. But there is no doubt that Boudica Prime with Artemisia absolutely freaking slaps Guan and Leo, okay? And you would expect archers to give infantry a hard time. There's like nothing unexpected about that outcome. By the way, here is what I was describing earlier with the amazing synergy between Artemisia and her self-silence. When she gets to about 80% rage, there's a 50% chance she's going to silence herself and give herself 50% all damage. Well, she, in this case, won the dice roll on Boudica Prime, expertise skill, 80% chance to just shrug off a debuff when it would be applied. So Boudica was immune to the silence effect, which is absolutely insane. And Boudica's troops gained the buff Unstoppable. That's the 50% all damage buff from Artemisia. So there it is. All damage boosted by 50% due to Artemisia's Queen of Caria. Absolutely insane synergy. So the next thing we did is kind of amp up the pressure. I mean, it's not like Guan Skippy could lose to this combo. Oh, but it did. 31,000 sevs to 23,000 sevs. This is a commanding victory, in my opinion, for the Boudica Artemisia. And we didn't stop there. I brought in the Cavs. I was like, let me just beat you real quick. No. Even the cavalry were losing, and not by a small margin. So about 30,500 to 25, almost 26,000. This is still a solid win for Boudica and Artemisia. And keep in mind that we didn't have time to run 15 duels with each combination, which would give you a better sense as to whether or not randomness was skewing the outcome here. But we continued forward. What about Honda Tadakatsu as a secondary to XY? How does that do? The answer was worse. About 35,000 sevs to 25,000 sevs. And if we just look at the units remaining, there's 53,000 units remaining here and 32,000 units remaining in the XY Nevsky combo. So XY Nevsky performed better. And I mean, you'd kind of expect that, I think. The XY Nevsky, I will argue, is the better XY pairing. However, using Honda with XY lets you move your Nevsky somewhere else. That's really the advantage of going that route. So if we try some archers, it goes poorly. This is a Nebu E-Song, and you can see why I have been advocating for a little while now that I've actually retired E-Song from my open field lineup. He's got no march speed, he's got no debuffs, he's just got damage. And damage is a replaceable thing, like any other commander that gives you other things you like, and as damage will be a replacement. Now, his damage vehicle with the AoE has been unique for a very long time, which is why I think he's been really, really popular and very effective in the open field, and for most people is still a slam dunk easy investment. But in the position that I'm in with all these different commanders, Isong is one that I'm ready to bench, weirdly enough. In fact, I did this entire KVK. And you can see that really show here in the quality of this trade. However, we continue on, and we start to try some other combos with Boudica. Now we've got Boudica Isong. Now this is the combo I plan to use on my restart. This was a much closer matchup to the Guan Yu Skippy combo. So this is still kind of amazing that we can take one of the first commanders you get access to in the game that's really solid and worth investing in, pair them with Boudica, and you still wreck. I mean, it won the trade by 2,000. Not bad. I guess 1,200. If we look at the next report here, we've got Boudica with Ramses. Now, this is one that I expect is going to be better than you would think in the open field. This is in part because you're going to be the victim of AoE skill damage, and reducing that skill damage is going to be really good, but also Ramses has triggered March Speed when he needs to get away from a bad situation. And let me tell you, man, 40% March Speed when you're getting attacked is a free getaway. You're gone. You will break from a bad situation if you are in trouble. So I really like the Ramses, even though his debuff is duplicative with XY and Nevsky, and thus maybe doing really nothing at all for you. I still think he could be good in the open field. And you'll have kind of an interesting choice if you have the Ramses Isong, which is something I've advocated for a really long time, and you wanted to swap in Boudica. Like, which one would you get rid of? Would you get rid of the Isong, or would you get rid of the Ramses? I think the way I would advise you here is that the Ramses is more tanky and the Isong is more damage. And so if you're finding your Boudica is getting absolutely wrecked in the field because people are focusing it, then maybe you need the Ramses. And if you're finding that you have the opportunity to just free damage, then use the Isong. Isong generates rage. Boudica wants rage. And I maybe should have mentioned toward the start of this video, a part of the reason we only did Boudica Prime as the primary commander is that she increases the skill damage taken by the target. So in almost all cases, you want to make the target take more skill damage and then hit them with a secondary who does a lot of skill damage, like Boudica Nebu, which actually lost, surprisingly. And I think this is a little bit of randomness here. 26,000 sevs for me, 29,600 sevs for the Boudica Nebu. I think that combo is actually better than represented here, and is one that would be worthy of consideration in the open field. I mean, if you had the choice between, Boudica Isong or Boudica Nebu, I would say Boudica Nebu would be my pick, hands down. Which is kind of funny because the result doesn't look as good, but I think the March Speed on Nebu is actually really important. Now, this Guan Skippy did get kind of wrecked by Boudica Gilgamesh here. 36,000 to 25,600 is a pretty solid trade in favor of the Gilgamesh, and you would expect this, right? The obvious downside of Gilgamesh that's not really represented is that if you have Skippy somewhere else in your murder ball, the health debuff from Gilga does not stack with the AoE health debuff from your Skippy, and so you lose a little bit of value there. But in this 1v1 where you don't have to run anywhere, you can see, just looking at Gilgamesh's kit, why he would perform extremely well. So continuing to the next report, Boudica Ramses. I just wanted to try this out against a Guan Honda. This did not do as well as Guan Leo. This did not do as well as Guan Skippy. 37,450 to 22,000 flat in favor of the Boudica Ramses. Honestly, just such a good combo. We tried out Nevsky William, just to see. And I think Nevsky is a big part of what makes the XY Nevsky such a good combo. At 33,000 to 25,000, it's still really disproportionately in favor of Boudica Artemisia. And if we just compare to the XY with Nevsky and how that performed, we're looking at 33 to 25 here. And when we did XY Nevsky, it was 30.5 to 25.5. I mean, it's a similar performance, although, I don't know, there are virtues, of course, to each of these commanders, William and XY. If we look at the next test we ran, it's an XY Nevsky, this time against Boudica and Ramses. And actually, we ended up winning. So I found that surprising because Ramses should be able to handle skill damage really, really well. But I guess the defensive stats that are there by default on your Artemisia plus the bonus damage are enough to really tip that over. But 25,000 to 30,000 in favor of XY Nevsky. Finally, the cavalry getting a W here. Then we've got more Guan Skippy savagery. Man, GG. 31,000 to 29,000 in favor of Boudica with freaking banana helmet. You know, this crits my soul a little bit. And you may be wondering, how is that even possible, bro? But you have to keep in mind, the biggest problem with Edward of Woodstock is his slow skill cycles. He's got an extra rage requirement to do the extra damage that he does. But even with his low damage as a secondary, Boudica is so strong, and the rest of his kit is so decent that you still win anyways, which is definitely going to be related to the conclusion I'm going to give you again in just a second here. But 30% health is really good, and 30% march speed on Edward of Woodstock is actually really good. Plus, 25% skill damage when you do 2,300 damage factor is pretty good. And by the way, 5% extra damage to infantry. Well, GG, I was using infantry, right? And you get a bunch of extra attack at the cost of some defense, but Boudica gives you defense, right? And then after using your active skills, all normal attacks and counterattacks, it says deal 50% increased damage. I mean, losing to Edward of Woodstock is pretty rough. You'd think it can't get any worse than that, but weirdly enough, it does. As I showed you at the start of the video, this is a Boudica with El Cid that does not even have the relic. That's right, Boudica, El Cid, no relic, still beats Guan Yu Skippy. Now, a part of the reason is that when you get below 50%, you do 25% more damage, and in a duel, you duke it out, and in the open field, you would not. And you could really see the jump and effectiveness in this combo when you hit that below 50% mark. But I will point out that actually there is some natural synergy with El Cid, right? Let me explain this. So Boudica gives you a number of benefits. She makes it so that when you're below 80%, you get a defense boost. So you want that defense boost to kind of buffer the damage you're taking, because once you get below 50%, now you're doing a whole bunch of extra damage, 25% extra damage from El Cid. So you get really tanky and really punchy as you get low, and Boudica even does healing to try to keep you in there for longer. I think that this combo, it works, man. It works, and you could use it. I'm not saying it's meta. I'm not saying it's one of the best combos. I'm saying get Boudica Prime and use literally whatever expertise archer you have, and you're going to do great. Last couple reports here. We've got Guan with Skippy against Boudica Freddy. We're running low on troops at this point, by the way. So we're using set amounts that make sense given the skills that are on the different commanders here. That's why Boudica with Freddy has some extra troops, but it's still lost. Thank goodness. This is just going to drive me nuts. 11,000 to 15,000. Then we ran a unmaxed Tommy. Okay, this is a 5235 Tommy. We just wanted to see, like, how would this go? And it wasn't that bad. Like, if the Tommy was expertise, this would be a lot closer. I think it might still favor the Guan Skippy, but it might not, honestly. It's kind of hard to say here. About 9,700 to 13,300. Let's look at the next report here. I wanted to get Mehmed in the mix and just see, even though it's not a maxed Mehmed, 14,500 to 10,000, really just about 11,000 in favor of the Boudica Mehmed. I think that Boudica with Honda Tadakatsu is probably one of her better combos. We didn't have one expertise to test with, which is why we ran this combo. And man, I mean, Mehmed unmaxed, but with a relic, right? So 5-5, 4-5. The one that's unmaxed is actually the one for hitting cities. So that's not that big a deal, although there will be more skill damage from Mehmed if this were an expertise commander. So yeah, man. Boudica Prime looks really good. Now, you will notice, wait, Chisgule, there's a couple commanders you didn't test, like Honda Tadakatsu, that I think will be really good. And you're right. I think that Cyrus is one of the better pairings for Boudica in many ways and for many reasons. And unfortunately, we didn't have one expertise to test with. But actually, in my own lineup, I think if I were bringing 4 archers, the 4 that I might bring, that's 2 pairs. It's going to be Boudica Prime with Cyrus, and then maybe Nebu with Tommy. Or alternatively, I might run Boudica with Honda Tadakatsu, and then maybe Cyrus with Nebu. And that's what I would probably use in the open field. I think Cyrus is one of the better commanders. And the reason I say that is that he is going to generate rage after you use an active skill. You want Boudica's skill damage taken debuff to apply more frequently. So this is a very logical pair. The synergy seems really good. Boudica brings the tankiness. Cyrus brings the punchiness. It's kind of like the Guan Yu and Leo pair, where like Leo brings the tankiness and Guan brings the punch. Although in this case, Boudica Prime brings punch and tank, which is why Boudica Prime, Nevsky, and also Scipio are like the 3 commanders you should be looking to invest in at this moment in time in Rise of Kingdoms. If you are in Season of Conquest, KVKs, and beyond, Boudica Prime, Nevsky, and Skippy are the 3 you should look at. Any of those 3 is really probably going to be fine. And anything else, and I will ask you, why in the heck are you doing that? Why would you put your sculptures there? There's really nothing more important than those 3 commanders for your roster at this moment in time. And this testing has shown me that Boudica Prime is exactly as good as I thought she would be, if not perhaps better. If you enjoyed the video, do me a huge favor, throw a like on here and consider subscribing for more testing videos when commanders go live. I probably will try to either live stream the moment that somebody in my kingdom maxes the new Archer Rally lead, Henry. I would like to stream that, or I'll go gather a bunch of reports, put them into a video to share with you. So again, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Consider checking out the sponsor of today's video, War and Order, that does support the channel. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.